Well, so this is what all the architecture we have discussed. In a shell, we have only one shell that is called the HIVE shell, where we execute all the SQL query. We have the meta store, we have execution engine, which give the final output. We have a compiler and the driver. Okay, so this is all the components that we have discussed and how this component to communicate to each other. Okay, so Hive components, if we talk about what exactly shell, it allows interactive queries like MySQL shell connected database as a support web and JDBC client driver. So session handles fetch, execute, what is a compiler, pass, checking, plan, optimize. Execution engine is a direct acyclic graph we have where the map produced on SDFS or method, this all comes on under the DAX stage. The meta store, this is what your schema location in SDFS. Third is a very important concept, serialization and deserialization in Hive. So this is all the components will go in depth. When we'll do some practical, things will be more clear. Okay, these are the components and how it is defined. Now, someone asking what is the mode of the database. So this is what the three different mode we can run the metastore depends upon the requirement. We have embedded metastore, local metastore, and the remote metastore. So if you talk about the embedded metastore, is what exactly your driver? We are we are storing a Derby database. Okay. Fine. So if we are working with the Derby database, this is what we are working with the embedded metastore. In the Derby database, we have one limitation that one driver, one user cannot a multiple user cannot access the Derby database at a time. Means what will happen even if you open a two different shell on your single machine, if you're running a sudo mode on your single machine and you in a if you open two terminal different terminal and both terminal if you're running Hive shell, okay, then you can get an exception. The reason that we are working with a Derby database. Derby does not allow to multiple user to access at a time. This is what the limitation that we usually face in the Derby database. Now local metastore, what we have, okay. So the local metastore is nothing where we are using in one dedicated MySQL. You can see. Hope you got the answer. Shivkaran, why MySQL? Why not Derby? Okay, so if you want to overcome from this issue, here the local metastore, every driver is having their own metastore there. So every driver can access its own metastore and multiple driver you can say can access one at a time. Okay, so Derby is something that is a by default database which Hives come with. It's a lightweight database you can say. Okay, in Derby you cannot access multiple user cannot access a metastore at a time. One user at a time can access only. Okay. Difference between the local and the remote metastore. Here in the driver, you see that only one driver can communicate with the other metastore JVM as well. Okay, so advantage of having remote metastore. Metastore is replicated. I need to check. I'm not sure whether it is. I believe it is a single. Uh, it's a one data, but I'm not sure. Let me check. We'll get back to you. Fine, Prashant. Okay. Now, if you talk about the data type, well, so we have a four major data type. That is the type system: Boolean, integer, string, and float. These are the primitive data type that it support in Hive. Usually the complexity always we face from a data type. Okay, so as we have a complex data type, we find and into pig we have the same complex data type. But before that, we see that hierarchy of the primitive data type: number, double, big integer, integer, 10 integer, float, integer, 10 int, string, boolean, some more decimal as well has been included. I will let you know what all the other different data type has been included that is coming with the Hive 0.13 and uh, 0.11 as well. It is coming with a different. Now, if we talk about the complex data type, so if we talk about complex data type that we have in Hive, that is for struct, maps, arrays, and union type. If you talk about arrays, I believe you guys are familiar arrays, data with the same field. Okay, a map which stored in the key value format, key value tuples, it can be accessed. Right? Struct, uh, you might be there's some struct keyword you might be familiar. You might be heard in the C language is struct, which store the data of different fields. Okay, the same application we are using here as well. Struct dot notation we are using, and the union type. Look, it holds different data type, but at a time it holds one type. Got the point? It can hold different data type, but at a time it can hold only one data type. So these are the four complex data type. We'll show the application as well where exactly union, arrays, maps, and struct is being used. Okay. And now we have a discussion on abilities of Hive query language. So what is all about the Hive query can perform? It all the basic of SQL that we have discussed, where joining the table, figure out the results, storing the data, create, drop, and alter, ability to store result and another table. We are having something different, which we can say it is how dissimilar from SQL. Well, we do not have a delete keyword into Hive. For that, we use a drop as well. 0.5 if you use 0.8 version, in that update keyword is also not mentioned. So now, but we have now means it makes sense as your Hive is good for OLAP, but now we have a multiple version how to update the data in table like in Hive we have 0.11 I believe, and I guess it's 0.13 as well. So latest version you can get this all the features that it supports. Okay, and again if you're using Cloudera 0.37, this all the versions are supported. Sorry, Cloudera, your Hive, all the ecosystem, regular ecosystem of Hadoop are already available in your Cloudera inside the user lib. But if you're planning to set Hive on a manual cluster, if you have your own cluster, then you can configure the Hive. Okay. So configuring Hive is nothing is uh, uh, you have to untar, you have to download the tar file of Hive and untar it, and you have to set the number of paths. This is how we small description about configuring Hive in the manual cluster. As well, Metastore Hive comes with a Derby. It is a lightweight and embedded SQL. It can configure with any kind of database. Okay, it can be MySQL as well. It can be Oracle. Okay. If we talk about the partition and the bucket, that's the most important concept of a table. Partition and the bucket. Usually partition means